Hey, hello friends, and welcome back to this new Flutter tutorial. In this, we're going to be taking a look at creating this nice UI design using Flutter. So in this, there is a simple app bar with the name of foodies and two icon buttons. We have this page view and list items. So we're going to be taking a look at fewer complexities that can come in the way when you're creating such UIs in Flutter, and I'll be explaining everything as usually as we go through it. So we also have this floating action button in the bottom right hand corner. So right now I'm in the new Flutter project that is given to you by Android Studio, and I have named my app Foodies app. I also have added the assets directory in which I have this data.json, which is the sample data for showing those bottom list items in that is below the page view. So each item is having the place image, place name, place items, and minimum order. So other than that, I have this images folder, which is created just below the assets one. So in this, I have the few images that will need to show in the app itself. So after adding both these directories, I went to the pubspec.yaml file and I've added all these assets here in the pubspec.yaml. And I have also added the material design icons Flutter package to add some sort of icons. One example is the icon that is being used in the floating action button on the bottom right hand corner. Okay, so this is the basic setup that I've done. Other than this, I have just removed the extra code that is given to you by Flutter when you create a new project. So right now I'm having this my app, simple material app, and in which I have this main screen of my home page. So we'll be starting the development of my app from this my home page. So the first thing that we think I think we should do is we should create this top level app bar in for our app. So for this we need to have a simple app bar. We're not going to use the app bar that is given to you by the scaffold itself. We're going to be using a row to add the elements in a nice ordered way. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove the container from here. We're going to add a scaffold, and in the scaffold what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a body. Okay, and a semicolon here in the body. What I need to do is add a container, and in the container I'll just set the height and width. So for the height and width, I'll just take two variables here. I'll just create a new variable. Screen height is equal to media query dot off context dot size dot height. Okay, so that I don't have to do it again. Oh, sorry, I can't really do this here. I have to do this in the build method to get the context, and I can create a new screen width is equal to media query dot off context dot size dot width. Okay, and in the container I've set the width and height of the screen width, sorry, height is equal to screen height, and width is equal to screen width. Okay, so we have added the height and width to the container, and now what we're going to do is we're going to add a child, and we're going to keep it to safe area so that we don't really mess up with the status bar up here. I'm going to add a safe area so that our app remains in the lower portion below the status bar. So in the child of the safe area, what we're going to do is we're going to add a SingleChildScrollView. SingleChildScrollView, in which we're going to add a column widget. We're going to add a child of column. So why I have added the column is because we want the app bar to remain up. Below that we want the page view, and below that I want the list items to be listed. Okay, so right now we have this column here. In this we're going to add a cross-axis alignment. We'll keep the cross-axis alignment to center, and along with this we're going to add a few children now. So for the children, what I think we should do is for the first children we need to add the app bar. So for that I'll just add a new row. I'll add a new row, and for the row I'll set the main axis alignment. I'll set the main axis alignment to main axis alignment dot space evenly, or space between, I think. space between, and for the child I'll add and for the children I'll add icon button for the first one, icon button, and the icon button I'm just gonna add an icons.menu like I used in the app, and for the on pressed I'm just gonna pass a null method, okay, an empty method basically. And sorry, I need to add icon, and in the icon I need to pass this icons.menu. And for the second item what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a text of foodies, FWTIES foodies, and we're gonna add a style of text style of, I should keep the font size to, okay, let's say 25, and okay, just for now I'll just keep it there. And I'm gonna add an icon button of, with an icon of, let's say icons.person, like we had in the app. And for the method I'll just pass a null here, so we see that ripple effect when the button clicks. So right now when I run the app, let's see what happens. Okay, so as the app is running, we can see that we have this icon button here, we have this foodies title here, and we have this simple person button on the right hand side. So we also might need to change the font of the foodies because it's not really looking good at this moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new font in the app. So I'm just going to create a new directory in the root. I'm just going to name it fonts. Okay, and in the fonts I'm going to add a new font here. So let me just take a new font, Samantha TDF. So and I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so we have this Samantha font that I used in the original app. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add this detail to the pubspec.yaml file. So I'm just going to open this pubspec.yaml file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new font. So for that I'm just going to get to this fonts directory and just uncomment that. I'll just remove all the other fonts that are up here, and okay, we'll just keep a few of them. Okay, we'll just keep them. And there is some indentation issue here, and I'll just name the family Samantha. And for the fonts I'll just add, typing on the wrong side, Samantha.ttf. Okay. In the text view I'm just going to add a font family. I'll just pass the name Samantha. So this should work. And now I just rerun the app again, and in the emulator we'll wait for the changes to appear, and you can see that the font is updated, but the font size is quite low. So I'll just double it up. I'll just keep it 50, and I'll run the app again. Voila, it's looking good. And now what I think is that the foodies is really not much padded from the above section. So what I'll do is I'll just add a few padding, some padding to the row. I'll just add padding, and let's see what happens. I'll just run the app for now, and okay, yeah, it's looking good, but the padding is not quite adjusted. I need to give separate padding for all the other areas. So what I'll do is I'll replace the all from LTRB, and I'll pass in the left padding of let's say 10, and from the top we'll keep at 5, from the right we'll keep equally 10, and from the bottom what we're going to do is we're going to keep it at 2. Okay, bottom, yeah, let's just keep it for 5 at this moment, and when we're on the app we'll see what happens. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do now after adding this app bar now is we're going to add this bottom page view. Okay, so for that what we're going to do now is we'll create a new stateless widget, and we'll name that banner widget area, and we'll keep that banner widget area. And in the banner widget area what we're going to do is we're going to create a new container, and the first thing we'll do is we'll pass a screen size. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to add a child, and for this we want a page view. So in the page view what we're going to do is we're going to add a controller which we'll create in a moment, and we'll add a scroll direction. We want this to be horizontal, so I'll just add it axis dot horizontal. And for the child, we're gonna create some new widgets. Okay, so we're gonna create a new page controller here. I'll just create a new page controller. I'll just name this controller, and I'll just create it a new page controller. And I'll pass in for the initial page, we'll set that to 1. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create some data for the images. Okay, because in the page view we're going to pass some images, so I also need to pass in the data for the images. I'm going to create some sample data above the app. So we'll go to the main app here, and we'll just create a new variable. We'll create a banner items, and in the items I'm going to pass some few items like burger and cheese chili, and we're going to add noodles, and we're going to add pizza, my personal favorite. And I'm just also going to create a new banner images array list. So in this we're going to add the path for the images. We have this images folder here, and in this we have the images of different food items. So I'll just add burger.jpg, images slash cheese chili.jpg, images slash noodles.jpg, and images slash pizza.jpg. Okay, so we have this sample data here. So now what we're going to do is we'll check what the error is here. Okay, I have just forgotten to add this semicolon, and here we can pass the controller that we just created above. And now what we're going to do is we're going to just create a loop, so that we can loop through the array items that we just created, and we need to create a list so that we can fill in the widgets that we need to fill in the page view. Okay, so the very first thing that we need to do now is we need to create a for loop. Okay, so in this for loop, what we're going to doing is we're going to be creating a new banner view. So this will be the single view item for each view in the page view. Okay, what I need to do here is we need to create this item. We need to create 4 of these items and put them in the array, and that array will be passing down to the children. Okay, so we'll create a new banner view. In this we're going to be creating a new container. In the container I'm going to be adding decoration, just for adding that shadow effect. We'll add this box decoration. So the first thing first, we're going to add a new child. In the child we'll add a new stack so that we can add the shadow in the background and the image on the front end. So in the stack what we're going to do is, I'm just going to add a semicolon here. So in the stack what we're going to do is we're going to add a fit so as to keep the stack expanded, and then we're going to add children. So in the children what we're going to do is we're going to add the image. Okay, so I'm going to add an image, and for the image I'm going to load it from the assets. So I'll just add image.asset, and what asset do we need here is we need banner images and the X item. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to fit it to boxfit.cover. Okay, and we also need to clip the corners of the image. For now I'm just keeping it a square. So we also need to add this item to the list. So right now we only have this image in the stack, but we'll add a few items to it after this. We're going to create a new list here, a list of widgets. We're going to create a new list widget, and we'll name it banners is equal to new list new list of widget, and we'll initialize that. And now in the banners what we're going to do is we're gonna add the view in the banner view. So basically what we're doing here is we're gonna loop through the array of banner items, and for each item what we're going to do is, sorry, it's X. So for each item we're going to create a new view, and we'll add that to the list of widgets. And after this for loop is completed, this banner will be complete, and we'll just add this to the children property of the page view. I'll just add banner here, banners, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take this banner widget area, and I'm going to add it to the column here. So in the column of items, after the padding, I'm going to add this banner widget area. Okay, so I'm just going to run it again. Let's see what we've made till now. Okay, so what we have here is we have just a few images, and what I think is we need to add, although it is also looking good, what we need to add is, okay, so I think I have done a little bit of mistake from the images side. Only 2 images are being shown, that is for the noodles and the cheese chili. So I'll just check the names in the directory. Cheese chili, burger, B-U-R-G-E-R, burger, and pizza.jpg. I'll just run the app again now. Okay, so you can see that we have items here. We have these few items. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to add this little bit of effect here. We're going to also make the user view these side items along with the center item that is the focus of the page view. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to add a little property to the page controller that we have added to the page view. And for that, what we're going to do is we're going to add a fraction property. We're going to add viewport fraction to the page controller. Viewport fraction, we're going to add a value of 0.8. I guess 0.8 would be fine. So basically this viewport fraction takes a value from 0 to 1. 1 is where 1 is being completely shown on the screen, and 0.8 is basically 80% of the screen is being covered. 80% of the width is being covered. So I'll just run this app again. And you can see that both the items are here. Yeah, this burger and this noodles. So what I think we should do is we should add a little bit of padding to the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this container with a padding widget. So I'll just take this container, and the code hinting what won't work here. I'll just add a new padding. And in the padding, I'll just add after we add a padding, I'm just going to add a padding of agentsets.all. I'll just add a padding of 10. In the all, I'll just pass a padding of 10. And for the child, I'll pass in the container. So I also need to put in a comma here. Okay, so I'll just reformat the code, and you can see that in the banner view we have this padding, and in the padding we have a child of container. So I'll run the app again. Let's see what happens to the app. And as soon as the app starts, you can see that we have nice little padding between the items, and the fraction gives us these other 2 items, a preview of these other 2 items in the column, sorry, in the page view. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a bit of curve to these images, and for that I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this image asset with a new widget that is the clip or rect. We're going to clip this basically we're going to clip this image. In the clip rectangle, I'm going to pass the border radius. I'm going to pass border radius dot all for the all corners, and I'm going to add a new radius. Okay, radius dot circular. I'm going to add a radius of let's say 20.0. Okay, so just let's run the app again, and you can see that we have nice curved edges of the image asset. So what we need to do now is we need to add a bit of shadow like we have in the original app. So what we need to do for that is we need to add a container, and we need to add that behind the clip rectangle. So we need to add that above the clip or rect widget, and we're gonna add a container, and for the container I'm gonna add a new decoration. For that we'll pass in the box decoration, and in the box decoration I'm gonna pass a border radius of border radius dot all, and we'll keep this equal to the circular of 20.0 so as to match it with the clipping of the image itself. So we are also going to add a box shadow which takes in an array of box shadow. So box shadow, okay, box shadow, and the box shadow I'm going to add a new color. We'll do color. We'll add a black. So for the black shadow, we're going to add a few offset. We'll offset that to just a bit. We're going to add an offset of just. We'll keep this 4.0, and for the Y we'll keep this 4.0, and for the blur radius we're going to keep it to 5.0, and for the spread we're going to keep it to 1.0. So these are a few properties that you need to add to the box shadow. Let's see what how it looks like in the app itself. So okay, so the black color is really a bit much, so we're going to take down the black. We're gonna add a contrast to it. Let's test the 54, and yeah, it looks fine. I'm just gonna go with 38 here, and let's say, this looks perfect. And now what we're gonna do is, okay, so this looks fine. Okay, nice shadow there, but the shadow is going a bit too much. I'm just gonna decrease the offset to 2.0. I'll just run the app again. Okay, so it's not really that subtle now. It's just a touch of shadow. So what we're going to do now is we need to add these details to the image, and you can notice that there is a black tint above the image. So we also need to add that. So we'll do that next. Okay, so for adding the tint above the image, we need to add a container above the clip or rect widget, which contains the image. So in the container below, what we're going to do is we're going to add a new decoration. We'll add a box decoration like always, and in the box decoration I'm going to add a border radius. We'll keep the border radius to all and the radius to 20.0 like we keep everywhere. 20.0 to keep in correlation with the image itself. And now we're going to add a new gradient. So for the gradient the idea is we're going to take the shadow from below and we're going to keep it light as it reaches the top of the image. So basically the gradient will be from a black color to a transparent color. So for that what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the food app. I'm going to add a linear gradient, and for the linear gradient I'm going to add the colors. We'll take colors to colors.transparent, and for this first color we're going to add that color dot black. I'm just going to keep it to, okay, we're just going to keep it to a pure black now. And other than the colors, what we need to add now is we need to add the beginning point. I'll just keep the beginning point to be the top of the image. That is the alignment dot top center, and the end, and the end to alignment dot bottom center. And yeah, I think this should do it. So we'll just run the app now and let's see what happens. Okay, so there is a nice tint on the app, so it's looking quite good. Just adds a bit of contrast to the image. It really looks nice. So what we need to do now is we need to add the text that we had in the original image, that is the cheese chili and the details, and for each item we have separate text here. So for that what we need to do is I'm just going to add the item name, and the below text remains the same. So for that what I think we should do is we should add a new widget after the container. We need to add a new column because the text is written upside down, and for the column I'm just going to add a new main axis alignment because we want to keep the text at the bottom, basically the main axis alignment. So the main axis for the column is the y-axis, and we want to keep the text at the end. So I've added the main axis alignment of end here, and for the cross-axis alignment we'll keep that to start. Cross-axis alignment dot to start. And for the children, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new text, and for the text we'll pass banner items. We'll take the X item, And for the style, what I think we should do is we'll add a text style. I'll add a font size to that so that it appears bigger. I'll just take in by 25, and we'll just add, so we'll also add a color to colors.white. So let's see how it appears in the app itself. So okay, we have this cheat sheet here. We also need to add some padding, so we'll do that next. But I'm gonna add a text view here. I'm gonna add more than, what is it? It's more than 40% off. Okay. So you can also create an array for these items, so you can have some data. But I'm just gonna add in a literal text of 40% off. And I'm going to add a style of text style. We're going to add a font size, and for the font size I'll just keep it 10.0. I'll just keep it at 12. Okay, and for the color I'm going to pass in colors.white. So for the padding, let's see, for the size of the widget itself, it looks okay. And for the padding, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some padding above the column. So I'll just have to cut the column from here. I'm just going to add some padding. And for the padding, I'm going to add an agent set of all. We'll just pass in 8.0, and we'll add child of this column. I'll just reformat the code. We have this padding here in which we have this column. So I'll just run the app now. Okay, it's looking fine. I just need to add some more padding. I'll just keep it at 10. Run the app now. Yeah, now it's looking fine. So we have created this page view that we wanted in the upper, that we wanted below the app bar. So now what we're left with is we need to add these items below. So okay, so the first thing that we need to do now is we need to go to the upper scaffolds here, and in the so in the column, what we need to do is we need to add a new container for the list view. And in the container, what I'll do is I'll add a new child of list view, and we'll also just give it a padding from the starting. Okay, we'll just add some padding to this. For the list view, I'll just gonna remove the list view here. I'm just gonna add some padding. So in the padding, I'll just keep at the edge insets dot all of 8.0, the default one. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a child, and for the child I'm just going to add a new list view. Okay, so what we want now is we want a list of items to appear here. So for each item we're going to have some data, and at the starting of this project we also added the few simple data.json in the app to have some sample data. Each item have a place image, place name, place items, and minimum order. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create a few items here, and for that I'm just going to go up here. Okay, so let's just create a new method, and that will return us a list of items. So as we're going to be reading the data from the data.json file, so hopefully it's going to return a new feature of widget and future of list of widgets, future of list of widgets that will then add to the list itself. And we'll just name this method create list. And okay, so we also need to add some async. We need to add async here, ASY and C, async. And here what we're going to do is we're going to create a new list of widgets. Widget, I'll name this items is equal to new list of widget. I'm just in habit of adding this new keyword before. So what we're going to do now is we're going to read the assets file. Data string is equal to await. We're going to add we're going to use a new method that is the default asset bundle to get the data from the assets, and we're going to pass in the context. And with the context, I'm just going to load a string so that we can then parse the string from the parse the JSON from the string. And for the load string, I'm going to add the path that is the assets.data.json So this is just a basic way to read data from the assets files. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new list of dynamic, which will be given to us by parsing the JSON. So I'll just do now is I'll just add JSON decode, and in the JSON decode I'm going to pass in the data string. So this JSON decode is not in here by default. We have added the .convert package up here. This is in this the Android Studio helps you a lot because it adds the dependencies as you need them. Okay, so first things first is we need to parse this data that we have done to JSON decode, and now we need to go through each of the item and create a list item there. So we'll take the JSON data, and I'll just create a for each loop here, which will give us the object. And for each object, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add something to the items. So for items, I'll just call it add, and in this we'll just create pass a new widget. So for the padding, I'll add some padding edge insets, and for that I'll just pass in 8.0. For now 8.0 will be too much. I'll just add 2.0, and for the padding, after the padding I'll just reformat the code. So after the padding, I'll just add a new child, and for the child widget, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a container for each list item, and for the container I'm going to add a new child, which will be a row, I think. Okay, so it will be a row which will have the image on the left hand side and the data on the right hand side. So in the right hand side we'll be having a column so as to have items in the y-axis. Okay, so I'll just add a new row here. Okay, so in the row what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a main exercise for main exercise dot max. So cover out the max space, and for the child I'm going to add an image here. So as you can see in the original image that the clipping is from the left hand side only, and we also have some curved edges on the container itself. So for adding the curves to the container, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the decoration to the container. We'll go to the container, we'll add some decoration, and in the decoration I'll add the box decoration with a border radius. We'll add the border radius dot all of radius dot we'll keep it at 10. We'll keep it at 10.0, and we need to add a box shadow that is also there. We need to add a box shadow that is box shadow. We'll pass in the color, that is the colors dot. We'll keep it at light black. Let's say black 12 here. And we'll also add a spread radius. I'll just keep it at 2.0. And the blur radius to 5.0. Okay, so we also need to add a border radius. Okay, I think this is fine. So for each item we have created this something, and for the items in the row what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new clip art rectangle. So we'll add a clip art rectangle, and in the rectangle I'm going to add a border radius with a border radius of 10 like we kept above. Radius dot circular 10.0, and with the border radius I'm going to add a child that is the image, and in the image assets I'm going to add an image of we have this object here, and for the object we'll take the place image. Okay, and we'll keep it at a width of 80 and a height of 80 itself, 80.0. We'll keep it at 80, and we'll add a box fit of box fit cover. So that's going to look okay. Okay, so we also need to add a FutureBuilder here. So I'll just take this padding widget, and I'll just remove it. And for each item, what we're going to do is we're going to add a new FutureBuilder. And in the FutureBuilder, I'll just for the builder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the context and the snapshot to it, the snapshot of the data. that we'll just be taking, and we'll check if the snapshot dot has data. Then what we'll do is we'll add a new we'll return a new child. We'll add a semicolon here, or else what we're going to do is we're going to return circular progress indicator. Okay, so if the data is loaded, we're going to pass a list, or else we're going to show the circular progress indicator in case you're loading the data from the internet. So for the initial data, we'll just pass in a simple widget of, let's say, we'll just pass in an empty text here. We don't need anything until the data is there. So I'll just pass in an empty text, and okay, we also need to add the future. We'll create a list. I think it should work now. Okay, so the problem here is we're not returning anything from the method itself. So as soon as we create the list here, we need to return the list itself. Return the items. Okay, so now when we run the app, okay, the list widget is not a subtype of widget. Fine. Okay, we don't really need to add a widget here, and a stupid error. Okay, so as we run the app, there is nothing on the screen, so let's check the errors. What is the error that is being shown here? And the following assert was shown during the perform resize report given an unbound height. Okay, so that we're in the list view, dart at the line 100. Okay, so we're basically what's happening is we're having this list view inside of the single child scroll view here. So this can cause some scrolling issues, and for the fix for that is we need to add the primary of false and a shrink wrap of true for that. So basically we need to stop the scrolling of the list view independently. So you can see that there is a list of items here. Okay, so what we need to do now is, okay, so as the list of items is being shown here, we need to add the other side of it. You can notice that the other side of the image is also being clipped. So we need to go to the list items here. Oh, where is it? Okay, we have this clip rectangle, and we're passing 10.0 to each and every side. And for the border radius, I'm going to do is I'm going to add only to the left, top left. We're going to add the radius of radius.circular 10.0, and the bottom left, we're going to add a radius of circular to be 10.0. So I think this should work fine. And for the other side in the row, we're going to add a new widget. So here we'll be adding a new column. And for the column, we'll add a new padding. In the column, we'll add some new children. And for the children, I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new text. And for the text, I'll just add the place name. In the text, I'll just pass object and pass in the place name. And on the other side, I'll just add new text. So this will contain the all the list items, all the items that the restaurant contains, that is burger, cheese, and all these things. So for that, we need to create a new string here. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. I'm just going to create a new string, final string. I'm just going to keep it empty. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go through the data here. We're going to go through this array here, and we're going to take each item and append it to a string. So for that, what we need is we also need to parse the JSON again. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a list of type dynamic, and I'll just name it data list, and I'm going to take in object of these items. So we need to move inside. For each item, we're going to do this, and we're going to take in a data list. And for each item in the data list, what we're going to do is data list data list dot for each item. We're going to take in the item, and we're not going to return that. What we're going to do is we're going to append that to the final string. Dot final string is equal to final string plus item, and we're going to add a bit of line there. Okay, so we have the final string here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this final string here. Fine. And we also need to pass some sizes here, the text sizes that we need for each of the item. So I'll add some style. I'll add a text style, and we'll pass in the font size of 12.0 and the color of colors.black, a shade of black that is 54. And we're also going to add a new item. And also here I need to pass in the max lines. Max lines to 1. I think this should work. And in the text also we need to add a comma here, and the text what we need to do is, I think it's working fine, and we just need to change in the data. Need to pass in min order, and for the minimum order I'll just add object min order. I think this should work fine. Let's just run this app. And okay, so there are some issues, but the primary one is that we do not have any background color. So for that we need to add the color to the container. I'll just add a color, colors.white. So there is some issue. Okay, I think I'm adding a box decoration. So in the decoration I need to add a color of white. Okay, so each item is looking good at this point, but with the row what I need to do is I'm just gonna add the cross-axis alignment. I'm gonna keep the cross-axis alignment to start, and I'm also gonna add a bit of padding here to the column. I'll add a few padding, and I'll run the app again. So okay, so it is looking fine. And in the column also I'll just keep the cross-axis alignment to cross-axis alignment dot start. Let's see what happens now. Okay, so it is looking relatively good at this point. There is some padding between the items. So what I will do is I'll just add the padding to the text. Add padding to the text, and we don't really need the padding from all the sides. We'll add that to only. We'll add that to left, not left. We'll add that to top. We'll keep that 2.0, and bottom to 2.0. I think that should work fine. And we also need to add a comma here. So I'll just run the app and see what happens. So yeah, it's looking really good, and most of the things are complete at this point. We have a page view and a list of items here, but each of the item is not really that far away from each other. So at the margin, okay, so in the container I'll just add some margin, and for the margin I'll keep that to edge insets dot all. We'll keep that to 5.0, and when run the app again, I'll just need to restart the app. Okay, so as the app is running, you can see that okay, I don't really need that. So there is some problem. We have this out of bounds error here. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give it a size. So for each item, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this padding in a sized box so that we have a particular size. I'll keep that to the width of, let's say, 250. And for the text style, we can add the overflow property. We'll just keep that text overflow dot ellipse. I'll just run the clip. Okay, so when we run the app again, you can see that if the data exceeds that 250 margin, then the text clips itself. Okay, so we also need to add this floating action button here. So for the floating action button, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the scaffold, and in the scaffold, right where the container ends. Okay, so nice guess. So we're going to add a floating action button. Floating action button. I'm just going to add a floating action button. For the on pressed, I'll pass an empty. And for the child, I'm going to pass an icon. And for this icon, I have added this, you can see that I have added this package here, that is the material design icons. I'm going to go to the main.dart file, and in the icon, I'm going to add mdi icons.food. So this was the icon that I used, I think, and I need to import the package here. Okay, so I'll just add the background color of colors.black. And also for the icon, I'm going to add a color of colors.white. So I think this should work. I'll just run the app again. And you can see that we have this nice food icon here that is having this ripple effect. And we have the other two app bar items. That is the menu item and the person logo with the text here. And we have this page view with a list of hotels below it. So this is the simple app that we just created from scratch in this tutorial. And if you like the tutorial, please press the like button, and do post your comments in the comment section below if you have any queries. And if you want me to make some other cool designs, then do let me know, post in the comments. And thank you for watching. See you next time. Peace.